Okay, I hope you guys can hear me now. If you guys can just let me know that you can hear me, I am so sorry. I'm so glad that you can read lips too. Talk slower, Brandon. No, Cynthia. No, that's not the way we do it here. I hope you can hear me now. I'm seeing that, yes, Eileen. Tell me that, just one person, just let me know that you can actually hear me now. Can you hear me now? And by the way, it was my mistake here. There we go. How about that? I'm good. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Cynthia. Yes, and by the way, congratulations on reading lips. Do you know about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I hired somebody and she had had cochlear implants and she was not, she really had to still rely on reading lips. Thanks, Deb. And it was funny. I went and I brushed up on my American Sign Language and I got probably about 25 working vocabulary words. And I thought, okay, before she gets started and working with me, she comes in and I start, doing some signing and she looked right at me and she goes, I don't understand anything you just said. I have to read lips. So here I am, like, learning American Sign Language and, doing that. So I don't know if you guys caught the latest video of Penny and I where we talked about how, tragedy and astrology, how do you deal with it? How do you cope with it? And how do you keep it reflective? So that it's not all bad and what's the positive out of tough situations? And those are really good discussions. Those are the things that we get asked all the time. In readings, these are the things that we get asked upon, when it comes to, if you're in the midst of it, if you're in the center of it and you're working with a family, let's say, that's been through a tragedy or it's really emotionally affected someone, you really have the opportunity to bring them to a place to say, okay, well, you've got to find the positive sometimes. And a lot of what I think astrologers do, at least, is we have a tendency of just, or at least a lot of astrologers tend to tend to kind of sit back and relax and just tell it like it is, like, oh well, it's the stars. I can't really change that, or they can't really do A, B, and C because it's the way it was meant to be, and it's astrology, and I get it to a certain degree. But I think one of the things that a lot of people fail to recognize is that we really truly have a definitive responsibility to explain where things are. Like why are we going through this? What are the whys here? What are the whys? And that to me is a real, it takes a bit, right? You can't just whip that together, right? It takes a knack. And some people are good at it. I mean, you can call it table sign manner or bedside manner, whatever you want to call it. But I think we also have a responsibility, and I think that some of the things that Penny and I do together, I think are very good at that, are very good at trying to explain, like, it's not all bad. And oh, by the way, don't get over your skis and think it's all good. Like, ooh, this is all happening in your money house. That's an amazing thing. And, then people sit back and they're like, well, where's my money? And then you're like, I'm sorry, what? That's a thing, man. That truly is a thing. Because what happens to a lot of people when they go through stuff like this is they don't have the ability to kind of wrap their head around it because they're still learning astrology. And sometimes when you're first learning something, it's majorly difficult. I actually have a tarot class coming up. I thought I mentioned this, that you guys would kind of like this. I got these big giant cards. They're as big as your head. When you first start looking at, tarot cards, and by the way, I'm just going to randomly pick one up here. When you look at something like the Five of Pentacles, I mean, it looks really ominous. Here they are kind of, trapped in the, in the cold. It's called the Little Match Girl. It's called the Little Match Girl card because it's, it's so pertinent to like being left out in the cold. It's pertinent to be able to, kind of be like, okay, well, um, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. But when you first see something and you're kind of like, oh no, I'm not part of this. And by the way, a lot of people don't realize this, and I actually talk about things like this in the class. So you notice how the Five of Pentacles, right? It kind of looks like they're walking past like a church, and the Five of Pentacles kind of has all the goods. Well, five, of course, is about change. But if you look really closely at the actual stained glass portrait, it actually represents, it's actually a very similar picture to the Ten of Pentacles, if you were to draw the camera up, and to show that it's kind of underground, underwork, that sort of thing. So it's, click on any of my links. It'll bring you right to the class. I actually have a European time and then also a U.S. time. I imagine here at 8:15 on a one Thursday night, whatever night it is, I'm probably going to be talking to more U.S. people, but that's okay. I know that the Europeans love to get caught up in the morning. But it's a great class. It's a really developed class. And it's really positive. I'm going to actually, I just want to let my friends over on Facebook know that I am out here doing this live stream because they kind of miss me. They kind of sort of miss me. Is this what I'm doing right here? I'm just going to put that out there right now. I used to do a lot of lives on Facebook, and I would get, a slew of people, and I would do some readings. It's a little bit tough when I can't interact. It's just really tough with mediumship when you don't have like that real-time validation. But that way, if you guys have any questions for me, a little Q&A here. If you want to put a question into that about mediumship, some of the experiences that I shared even in that video. I actually talked about reading, having the sitter be family members from, 9/11. I sat with a family from Sandy Hook. I've worked with some other things as well. It's a tough thing, but it's also what I've learned from it is how much purpose you have, and how much real-time moments really kind of come together. I was 2019 was a super busy year for me, and I had a show in production, and I had a lot of really kind of cool stuff that I loved to tell you panned out and just didn't. And the timing was off, but it wasn't a bad thing. I met a lot of really cool, great people. I also got rid of a lot of cool or not so cool suspect people. So it worked out. And I had this thing where I was taking every opportunity. And as a working medium, you're like, if you can get in front of people, that fills the guff, and more people come to you for readings, and then they'll take your classes, and there's still a business. I have responsibilities. I have 3 kids. I have a roof over their head. There's a lot to it. And I'll never forget working with this family that was, they were very skeptic. And I had a thing down in Connecticut. I was a keynote speaker for a convention there, a mediumship convention. And I had a show on Friday night in Connecticut, and then I had a show on Lake George. I actually mentioned that in the video, or at least I mentioned Lake George. Lake George on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday, I was the closing remark, and I did we lost the sound. I don't understand what's going on here, people. Well, it seems to be good on my end. Not entirely sure what's up on, otherwise, but I'm going to keep going. I hope. I just kind of did a trigger here with the sound. Mercury retrograde, everybody. Mercury retrograde. You can hear me. Okay. All right. So maybe it's a one-off. Anyways, so I end up driving up from, middle, I was in Mystic, Connecticut, for lack of better terms. And I had to drive up. I drove up in the middle of the night so that I could be up there. or actually I came up, I did a show on Friday night, drove up first thing in the morning on Saturday, had a whole group doing a fair and selling stuff, and we had people working that. And then we go up to I go up to Lake George, and then I'm at this show, and what was amazing was it was full of tourists, like from all over the Northeast, in Lake George for vacation. Thank you guys. Okay, good, Deb. Good. So as I'm delivering this reading, I knew that they had lost a son. Like the son kind of came right through. And the son had actually passed away in a very kind of freak way. And he had, very long story short, he was near water that had electricity in it. He tripped and fell. It was a true tragedy. Like there wasn't insanity around it. Nobody pushed him. Nobody whatever. He was a kid. He went into something he shouldn't have, and it took his life. You have you have a live wire and water. It's gonna be painful. And to an adult, you might get through it, but to a young child, you're not going to. And the delivery to the parents, the mom was very much ready. The mom was like, "Okay, I'm ready here for my son. I'm ready to go." And sometimes you have to have spirit help you. Like just know that spirit is looking out for you, right? Well, I kid you not, when we were driving up, we hit this thunderstorm, this true to form, I think it was beginning of August. So it was like, in the Northeast, we get these mid-afternoon thunderstorms. We don't get them like Florida does, but when we get them, it's this like 45-minute, just torrential downpour, it's just bad. Wind, the whole 9 yards, right? When you get a thunderstorm warning in upstate New York, it's a thing, right? So we get up there in time, dodging trees, the whole 9 yards. We get up there. So that was the condition of the day. And then when I came to this family, it's a packed boat. Like, they fill in the middle quarter, and then you can go top and bottom, whatever. But the middle quarter's full. And the guy was he wasn't there. The dad was just like, I miss my son. I love him. And I turn to him and I go, "What's the deal?" I go, "Why is he showing me the best pizza ever?" Mom and dad look at each other and they're like, "Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this is him." The dad had actually opened a pizza shop in his name. Kind of cool, right? And then I said, "Now he's showing me rainbows." And this is where spirit really helped me. So after all this weather, we're on this beautiful boat, actually the second oldest active boat in the United States, the Mohegan. And I see a rainbow appear, and I go, "And now he's showing me rainbows." And everybody on the boat starts laughing. And the dad just finally I said the thing he needed to hear. They actually put a rainbow on his tombstone, on his gravesite. And he said rainbows were something that he just drew all the time. He drew them. And I thought that was him telling me, "Look for the rainbows, Dad." And I said, "Well, go ahead and take a look out the window." And, I wish we had pulled into port right there. And I just went, "Good night." Because it was one of those never to be captured again moments. But spirit will help you when you do this work. And they'll let you know, like, "Hey, did you see the rainbow? Don't bother me right now." "Oh, there's a rainbow." "Oh, okay." Right. So Cynthia, you have a question. I'm going to take a couple questions here. As a medium, do you handle feeling detached when they begin to communicate? Maybe it's just me the way I feel. What do you suggest as a grounding? While during a reading? Well, a reading really starts before the reading. By the way, that's one of the fun things I teach. You're always in reading mode. Whether you realize it or not, you are a receptor and you are meant to be connected, right? So first and foremost, if your routine is good, you're going to be in the right spot to be grounded. Let's just take that. Let's not dive into too much, but I'll get to your question. I'm a big fan of black tourmaline, obsidian, agates. I would carry agates around. I don't really need to keep too many. I keep malachite on me. And And then, of course, sodalite, which is a great teaching stone. But for me, I do use crystals, and I do clear space before I come on. Like, for instance, that boat, I get, that's one of my rules. Like, 15 minutes before you let anybody on, I get to sit up there. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to smudge. I'm going to do what I need to. And of course, and by the way, if you ever want to like have a great conversation, an argument with somebody, like almost immediately, try and convince a retired naval officer that you're going to light smudge on the second deck. He's just like, I'm sorry, you're going to do what? I don't think so, son. I'm like, I'm a Navy brat. And he goes, you are a brat. You got that part right, but you're not lighting anything on my ship. And then he walks away, and I light up. Because that's what you do when you're a Navy brat, when a soldier talks to you. It was kind of funny. He had a good sense of humor, and he joked around. He goes, it smells like stinky weed down here. And then I just kind of laughed because I was like, it's not stinky weed per se. But, and anyway, I hope that answers your question. And feel free to, give me a follow-up here, Cynthia. I mean, I think grounding is actually a really, and let's be honest, as an empath, you need to be grounded when you're hearing some of this crap on the news. I mean, the Ukraine war broke out. Why do you think I did the videos on the Ukraine war? Because I knew people were like, holy Christmas. I don't have the tools to handle. Well, how are we having a war in 2022? We finally got out of a pandemic. Now we have a war? Oh, and now they're throwing monkeypox at us? Come on. Come on. If you're not grounded, they are undoing and ungluing you. And they're just having a great time. Like, wonder what they're going to do with monkeypox. Wait till the aliens get here. It's coming, guys. It's absolutely coming. And those of you that follow CE5 work and Stephen Greer, they have Memorial Day weekend is actually a traditional connection time for them. Just type in CE5 organizations. You're going to find a whole bunch of them. You'll find some local ones. And listen, it's a very unorganized organization, if you will. And you're going to get kind of a little bit of you're going to get some of the guys that are going to open up the door and go, oh, I got tinfoil hat on. Where's your tinfoil? You got that? And then you're going to have other people saying, yes, I'm a school teacher and he's a doctor and here's my brother-in-law. He works with autistic children and, you'll find your group that fits you. And if you're a tinfoil person, Godspeed, man. Rock and roll. We need you too. But it's one of those things where the CE5 stuff, I really, really... really, Sandy? What... I'll have to look that up. Yeah, I mean, listen, there are... just like, it's funny, this mass school shooting in Texas it's a terrible, horrible tragedy. And by the way, if you watch the video, Penny and I are really on the same page. The part of the reason why we click so much, and I know we kind of get flirtatious energy and whatever, it's not... we're good times. We're a good time. Let's just say it that way. But our goal is really to kind of get on the same page so that then we can really kind of team and deliver and that sort of thing. And we had a very good understanding early on, and I give her a lot of credit. And I will always, when I have admiration and it's reciprocated with a colleague, I am your greatest champion. I'm your greatest champion. And one of the things that Penny does really well is we can get on the same page really quickly. And if we're not on the same page, she'll redirect what will make her comfortable. And she's willing to listen to me too. And the reason why I think we talk about this stuff so fluently is because we're getting into a time where our communication skills interdependently is going to be really important, because we have to be able to say to the person next to us, like, I'm scared. This fake bravado shit. Bravado shit is actually killing us. It's killed the male species by and large. I mean, it's decimated it, because either we don't have a backbone and we don't know when to pull out the chair, or we don't know when to stand up when you're standing up, we don't know when to hold up the door and pay for the check. And we have to kind of have a very clear dissemination about how you want to be. Well, I'm going to open the door and I'm going to say thank you and I'm going to be a gentleman. Period. End of conversation. And then I also know where people are connected and where that part of it is that it's a play where it's like, I need someone like Penny in my life to have these videos. If it was just me talking all the time, you guys would be like, What the frig? Like, what the heck's going on? Right? Um, hey, Jill, I didn't get that. Jill, you took it down. It's okay. Retype it, kid. It's good to see you out here. So, yeah, the alien thing is the male and female energy. I know I'm talking about 6, 7 things here, but but the thing that Penny and I really kind of play off of, we knew very early on that we didn't want to be like, oh, our hearts go out to Texas. That as much we already have the best intention in mind, and the best intention in mind is we have to get over ourselves thinking that we're going to say something out of convenience, like thoughts and prayers, and say we're going to do something of action. Let's show the chart, do the comparison, and educate people. That's how you see empaths really, really gravitate towards healing. Like Penny and I feel very strongly that that is about healing. I feel very much about that. Esther, it's on my channel. It just premiered. It's loaded. It's ready to go. Feel free to watch it. And what I also think is kind of key, too, back on the alien thing and the alien scare, is it's funny. I've been watching. I watched Independence Day the other day. In Independence, those you are reading. Oh yeah, you started to touch on this, but as an empath, how do you handle the emotions coming from those that you're reading? Well, we're all in this together. So when you sit down and you connect with someone and you're connecting with their loved ones, there's 3 things in the room. I teach this a lot in mediumship. There's you, there's the sitter, and then there's spirit, right? You can't control the sitter, but you can do things to put the controller or the sitter at ease, right? Greet them and be kind to them, have conversation with them, all of that stuff. Then spirit, if you've done your work, you're the conduit you need to be, and you're able to communicate that. Now, the third rail in this is what Jill's actually asking about. So the other person on the other side is emotional. And by the way, those emotions range from skeptic to over anxious believer, quite frankly. In a mediumship reading with me, I have no problem saying to somebody, don't just agree with me, because you're shorting both of us here. Because if and there's a philosophy in mediumship, and I can't poo-poo it, but this is the part that people get really ticked off at me from. I'm a dialogue person, so I connect with the person's energy. I have to hear them speak. I have to hear them connect. I have to, all of that stuff. And in that moment, validation unlocks other things for me to understand and know. And it's, some people accuse it of like kind of a cold reading, or it gets close to a cold reading. It's not really a cold reading, but it's like, you kind of need to, do some guesswork, and then you react on body language. I rarely look at the person when I'm reading them. But the emotional piece of it does go back to doing some grounding stone work. It is being able to do that. It's also protecting your time. And one of the things that whenever I'm doing a full-on reading, if you ever sat with me for a reading, which you can book in the comments and all that other good stuff, I'm going to open up with a mantra. I don't care if I'm doing astrology, or if I'm doing mediumship, if I'm doing tarot, or if I'm doing coaching. And I've gotten away from doing long-distance Reiki. I still do Reiki locally, but I always have a mantra. I always have a thing that opens up, and it protects you and me, right? I'm going to bring in our bright light. I'm going to ask our guides to connect with one another as we ask for the messages to come through that we hope to receive, and we do this work in light, love, and laughter, so we can become the best version of ourselves in all the work we're meant to do. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to do this work here today, because this is what I'm meant to do for the greater good and the light of the world. Now, whether you're remote or right in front of me, or you're on the table for Reiki, what I've done is I've opened the door. By the way, that's also how you control it. As a medium, and as you develop, you just get inundated. And you're just like, I just need the voices to be quiet. And if you don't end up in the psych center, you're 2 steps ahead of everybody. Am I right or am I right? But by doing that and putting in controls, what you're doing is you're building the relationship with your guides. And you're beginning to really, and when I say this, I think you guys are going to understand it, because I know this resonates with some of you. You're building a relationship, and you're saying, okay, it's go time. Do you have that one friend that just acts like a jackass? And then you put some parameters around that jackassdom, and then you say, listen, dude, that's a really funny impression. a Beavis and Butthead. It's hysterical. But can we kind of save that for game night when we've had a few in us? Right? It's a little inappropriate here at my grandmother's funeral. Right? Like, you know, you have to kind of parade it the right way. That's kind of what you need to do with your spirit guides. Because spirit guides are just like, I'm on a mission. I'm going to make sure that my person knows everything at all times, and I'm just going to inundate them. I'm going to speak it in a language that they understand, and if they don't understand it, I'm going to say it to them 10, 12, 15 other times. Right? That's why you get inundated. But if you put the controls in place to begin to say to them very calmly and quietly, I'm going to bring in our bright light. All of a sudden, they're at the spirit guide fire department going, he needs us, let's go. And they can kind of understand that it's like, okay, this guy's in control of this. He's paying attention to us. He knows when to invoke that conversation. He knows when to say, this is what we need. So when it comes to things like grounding and safety and clarity, quite frankly, clarity. I probably did 1,000 readings before I really got the hang of protection, right? And what I mean by that is like I would just go into somebody's house. I wouldn't do anything in routine-based execution. Like I wasn't meditating every day. I wasn't whatever. And when you're talented, it's like you tend to forget that stuff. But I'm here to tell you it's critically important, like critically important. So I'm going to take one more question. If somebody wants to drop another question, Jill, that's a great question. But it took me a while to really kind of understand like how and why and where. And what was critically important to me, and by the way, nothing bad happened to me. I didn't get any psychic vampires. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. There are just jerks in the world that want to take your energy. There's that. Thank you, Esther. Yeah, so the negative stuff that comes through, let me wrap up the last thought. When you develop this, you begin to realize it's not until you say you want to get better at it. It's not until you want to say, I want to get strong at being connective. I want to be able to walk into a reading and have 55 minutes of it delivering messages instead of the first 20 of it warming up because I just can't get my groove on because I didn't do my routine, right? Hey, Lynn, how are you? So Esther, your question about what do you do with the negative stuff that comes through? Well, find the purpose. Find the purpose. You know, it wasn't, Dr. Jonas Salk found, the cure for syphilis. He came up with like 3 different vaccines, and he came up with them because the people around him got sick, and he felt determined. So he had bad stuff happen to him, and then he went and he figured it out, right? And I also talk about this in terms of free will. And free will is kind of a bear, isn't it? Total bear. And, free will is where you set your standard and you say, this is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm doing this. Let's just say a kid is wandering out in the middle of the road and he's going to get hit by a car. If you had the knowledge, the Spirit gifted you the knowledge of knowing that the car that's going to hit him is going to send him on a trajectory to find not only a way to cure cancer with limited surgeries and pain, but what they have to go through now is years of debilitating injuries. And knowing that they could really cure pain on a long-standing basis. Or you could save him with no guarantee of ever finding somebody else to cure the cancer. What do you do? Well, moralistically, I'm going to save them. I'm going to say, screw you, universe. Really, you're going to put me in that position? You're going to put that on me? But it does invoke you to really kind of think about where your moral ground is. Some people love the idea. And now, listen, had I lost many relatives, and I've lost some relatives to cancer, but if I was super close to somebody and I lost them to cancer, I'd be like, well, kid, hope you like yogurt. Maybe. But where I sit right now, I'm going out there and I'm grabbing them, even if I have to take the car, even if I have to take the bumper, right? But these are the things that you really have to kind of grapple with when you gain information. And if you're not grounded, if you don't have a routine, if you don't have a process of managing it, like after my readings, I shut down. Like when I go out and I do a show and I do anywhere from, 25 to 35, 45 readings, because I get a lot of readings done in my shows. Click on the link below, see where I'm at. Minneapolis, I'm coming for you. The routine that's important is after I go out there, I have to divestiture. I'm not doing meet and greets necessarily. I may do a special VIP thing where we do some handshakes and that sort of thing, but I have to shut it down. I've got a lot of energy in front of me. And by the way, when I walk out into a show, when a medium walks out into a show, all of those loved ones are talking to them at once. When you talk about, your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, you go back 9, 10, 15, 25 generations. And this is a common question that I get too. People say, well, why is it that you only get the relatives that maybe somebody knows? Or when you come through with like a grandfather that I never met. And Lynn, I'll get to you in a second. Well, in the sensitivities of the day, Lynn, you don't shoot at them. By having that process and being able to divestiture that energy keeps you grounded, right? And it takes a little bit. It really does take a little bit. Esther, you had a great question with that, and I know that resonated with Cynthia as well. Cynthia, keep going in your development. And Esther, I love seeing you in the classes. We got more coming here with this. Yeah, hey Katie, how are you? So Lynn, my songstress of the West Coast. How do you stop the neighbors at my land to stop driving trespassing on my land? Listen, possession's 9/10 of the law, ain't it? Put up a fence, put up a whatever. And listen, I know you don't necessarily have the means to do everything that would really kind of have to happen. I think that dialogue is straightforward. I think you give them the 4-step plan. I'm going to ask you again nicely. Listen, whistle through your 2 teeth. I don't care. But I'm going to ask you again. This is the last time I'm going to be polite, because the next time I have to get it on record. We're going to talk to the police. We're going to do whatever it is we need to do. And then I'm going to start rerouting where you can and can't be on this. I hope you like conflict, because that's what's coming. And by the time, and if you are somehow willing to go through that, I'm beginning to tell you that I'm willing to put up any boundary to do this. Just know that when I begin to trespass on your land, it's not going to have the same outcome as when you trespass on mine. We have to start respecting ourselves. And by the way, this is actually pointed out in the chart of the current chart. Pluto's placement right now in opposition of, I think, Mercury is just flat out disrespect. Like we don't respect people's opinions anymore. It's like, oh, you want to own a gun? Oh, you want this to be legal? We don't ever listen to the other side, right? So on one side of it, I start out this conversation by talking about knowing who you are. Yeah, Lynn, go get them. I actually think you're going to steamroll them, quite frankly. I start out talking about personal responsibility and routine and knowing who you are and knowing what your standard is. And then on the other side of this, I'm also saying we have to be able to respect other people's standard. We have to be able to respect other people's opinion. Listen, you can also be of the same opinion that it's ignorant that they came to that and uneducated in terms of how the world works or how empathy is driven. But Jesus, crow, how much further do you have to go? You can never convince somebody how to morally act. If you want to be a bad dude and you want to have countless relationships with different people, or you want to steal money from people, or you want to whatever, I mean, the evil that men do will go on and on. My regards, Bruce Dickinson. But what you can't do is expect that just because you care more than anybody else that it's going to change. That is ill-fated energy. Conversation, dialogue, education. That is actually how we change the energy. We're moving into an economy where your money is no good. Give me your time. Give me your effort. Give me your rhubarb in your backyard while I got corn in the back of mine. We're getting there, guys. We have to begin to learn how to be very Aquarian as opposed to Piscean. And if you've watched any of my videos, Piscean is a very codependent relationship. And Piscean is Piscean is the codependent. Aquarian is where you bring in your stuff, I bring in my stuff, we work together, and then when we're done, we do one of these. All right, everybody, good game. You owe me this. I did that for you. It's a heck of a day, everybody. Last question here. Do you use Reiki on yourself to help with meditation? I always do. And actually, if you got a second, guys, even though I have a little bit of my dinner down in front of me because I was watching everything. So I'm backing up a little bit so you can see me do this. So I had actually worked with a Qigong master for a couple of years during my development because my energy was like this. I was like Bill the Cat, right? So what I decided to do is work with him, and I'm like, help me understand my energy. Because I knew it had to start with me. I knew I had something. I knew I had a gift. I knew I had connection with spirit, all that stuff. But what I really needed to begin to understand was how to manage and control it. So get yourself into a position. Sitting is kind of the best. You can do it while you're laying down, but you'll understand the visualization here in a second. You could be out in the woods. You could be out in the, you could be sitting in a chair. He took me out in the middle of a parking lot, and it kind of looked a little bit like Varsity Blues, because he's like, even if a car comes, you don't flinch. By the way, he was from Santa Fe. Southwest, everybody. And through a series of breathing, you really kind of open up your body, right? You open up your body chest. It actually is what helped me lose 180 pounds. I mean, he was that guy, right? So on the piece of it that you need to remember is that we are energy. So the visualization is very much like this. So you are going to, literally kind of take your hands and bring them up, take a deep breath in, and then gently move your energy from the top of your crown down to your root. And you almost kind of visualize it as if you're taking like peanut butter, right? Moving it down to the root, right? And you're spreading it evenly. So you're taking it from your crown, you're moving over your third eye, down to your throat chakra, down to your heart, your solar plexus, right? You're moving it right through your sacral into your root, and then you're pushing it through. And by doing that, what you're doing is you're evening your energy. And by the way, if you look on the rest of my channel, I actually have that video out there. I didn't do it as a video. It's actually an audio, but you can listen to the walkthrough and the meditation on it. And for me, I had so much stuff coming in here. I felt ungrounded all the time. All the time. It was like, ain't they talking to me again? Right? I don't read your comment out loud. That's how I do it, Esther. Yeah, Sandy, good. I'm glad. Anne, very cool. I really hope that this, really kind of helps a few of you. Again, it's just simply taking this and just evening your energy. By the way, Esther asked that, since Bibles are frowned upon in the Bible, which, by the way, I'm about to kind of totally go here with this with you, Esther. So if the entire Bible talks about the prophecy of Jesus, which is prediction work, and then Jesus knows which one is going to betray him, which one is going to deny him. He also knows what his fate is going to be and does not fight it. How can you condemn mediumship when Jesus was a walking fucking medium? Take that clip to the bank, by the way. How can you say that this is nothing more than than smoke and mirrors, right? I mean, Esther, I love you, but don't give your power away to something that you can't prove, right? And then when you see it, it's, oh man. Chakra tune-ups, very good, very good. We will pelt you with heart donuts. Ooh, sounds like I have to pay double for that. Penny will watch that and say, "You really like getting pelted with hot donuts, don't you?" She says it in such a righteous way. No, but I think that this, I'm actually really glad you brought this up, Esther, because being a Catholic and being raised in this, I didn't have conflict with it. I just don't think that we. Yeah, oh, Esther, I know. I know you asked because you're genuinely curious. And listen, Esther, you're asking because you're going through this right now. You're like, I really like this medium guy, but then I read this thing in the Bible and it's like, no to Brandon. Right? Like, I get it. But growing up Catholic, for me, he was also a Reiki dealer. I love that he said it like that. Psst. You want some Reiki? No, Katie. Katie, there are no mistakes in the universe. He's a Reiki dealer. I love it. Are you kidding me? I'm going to do t-shirts. Reiki dealer. How you doing? Psst, come here. By the way, our Reiki, our sound healing room, our Reiki room is actually in the back of the office. Right? So it's all good. And Esther, if it's giving you conflict, sit with why the conflict is happening. And it's funny, it's, oh yeah, Arlene, big time. I know you didn't mean healer there. Esther, happy healing to you. I love that you're still sticking with this and you're following along in the journey. Arlene, definitely take a look at the video that I just posted. We actually analyzed May 25th in Texas. And we really, truly, I think we honored them. I think we honored the energy to it and really kind of, do that. Christina, that's beautiful. Read Edgar Casey. He helped shift me from Southern Baptist upbringing. That's beautiful, Christina. And again, I'm not anti-Christian Baptist, Southern Baptist. I'm not. I am pro-education to understand how you work and what resonates with you, not being spoon-fed what you don't necessarily want to begin with. Hello? By the way, fun fact about Edgar Casey, when my mother was pregnant with me, she worked for the Edgar Casey Institute. Now, I'm not saying the two of them correlate. My mother was a biologist and she was working in the vitamin department. Searched Edgar and found nothing there. There's been a lot that's been out in the last couple of years. Esther, shoot me an email too. I've got an Edgar Casey book list that might help you. If not, you can always look up the ARE Foundation, which is in Virginia. So I met my biological first cousin yesterday. Wonderful. Look at you go. Oh yeah, Anne, listen, you're right out of Mercury. Listen, you're in shadow time of Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde goes direct. Mercury goes direct on the 2nd. We didn't get as much June. We didn't get as much Gemini dance with this, even though technically it's in Gemini. Yeah, you'll be fine. Listen, you can't, right, Christina? Right? Am I wrong? My mom. I know that boom was because my mom worked for the Edgar Casey Institute. I know it was. Yeah, and Casey actually was, boy, oh boy, you talk about, case study, and anybody that does this work, I love to hear how people evolve, right? Edgar Casey evolved by making all the mistakes that none of us should. He got really sick when he had a couple of players come in and just do sports bets with him and horse racing and business deals. And, in today's day and age, like when I do a financial read for somebody, I'm talking about their behaviors versus what the market is. I'm not talking about you should invest in this stock. Nope, that's not my job. That's how Casey got sick. And what I really took away from it was how I tailor my readings connected to this is I will talk about what your personal tendencies are. It's in your chart. And then where the market is kind of extending to. We've got this going on with Pluto. Pluto's in Capricorn. You're nuts if you think your money is safe in an open market right now. If you love risk, you are riding the roller coaster right now, and it ain't pretty. But as it moves, as we kind of get out of Capricorn here, and it's not done. We move out of Capricorn early next year into Aquarius, and then oh my gosh. So then Pluto's power and knowledge is about the greater good, right? Oh, and by the way, one of the things that Penny and I have planned, and we've just got to schedule it. We're going to be doing we're going to do a couple of special videos, and those special videos, one of them will be on the Pluto returns for the U.S. She and I have had a little bit of debate. She's using July 4th. I'm going to use July 2nd. Those of you that are historians understand why July 2nd is actually a little more accurate. That is when everything was signed and ratified. December 4th is when it was announced and proclamated. So there's a little bit of things. Oh, Esther. Okay. All right. Well, keep going. Maybe that's not your dude. Well, good. The other video that we're going to do, we're going to compare each other's charts. We're going to see whether or not we can do business with, or if we can do business with each other. Just kidding. But it's part of life, right? So why not use that comparison? And doing, it's called synastry, when you take two charts, overlap them, and see the comparisons and how they work and how they don't work and the challenges to it. It's a really interesting thing when you take two charts and do that. And a lot of people, I think a lot of astrologers just kind of assume you're going to catch up or assume that what you're saying is kind of smart. We really like the idea that we can walk you through it and show that as an example. We use ourselves as an example. If you want to see some of the examples that I've done, I did the Johnny and Amber one. I did the Will Smith triangulation thing. How crappy is that dude's life right now? Will Smith is really wow, right? Oh gosh, Lynn, I've got a book coming out. She's asking, what are the more moving questions or that have been asked or experienced during the readings. It's a great way for me to wrap up. Thank you, Lynn, for that. So I in a home party, I've evolved a little bit. Now I just kind of do group home parties where it's everybody sits in a room. We kind of do our reading, and then everybody kind of goes home and, whatever. Where once upon a time when I was developing still, I would bring them into a room. They'd get 15, 20 minutes, half hour. I forget what I would do. And so I'd get one-on-one time with them. And I'll never forget it. I came into this room. It was Daytona Sunday. Daytona 500 was on. The big TV. And everybody was hanging out watching that. And they're like, yeah, I don't know if I believe in this, but my mama's going to be here in a few minutes. You better read her right. And I was like, okay, all right, thank you very much. It gets real rural real quick in my part of New York, if you know what I'm saying. So I walk into this room. There's a bunch of 88 flags out front. Everybody's wearing 88, blah, 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 all that other stuff. And there was a woman sitting there, and she was gray. And when I say gray, I mean her aura was gray. And by the way, when it comes to auras, the gray is the one that worries me. Black could mean a void, or they're becoming, or they've just gone through healing and they don't know what to fill it with yet. It doesn't mean, they could also be I just have bad intentions. Okay, fine, but there's a lot of possibilities with black. With gray, there's no misinterpretation of gray. They're lost, they're muddled, they're hurt, they're suffering, right? So I saw her there, and I knew I wasn't reading everybody that was at the party, but I was I really didn't want to read her. A couple of readings go by, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I'm probably out of the woods here. And then I said, oh, I'm going to take a little break. And then they said, yeah, we're going to have this woman, Linda, get settled. And she comes hobbling in with her cane, her headscarf. And I'm like, oh, shit. She's literally with me now smiling because she loves hearing the story. Thank you, Linda. And for the first couple of minutes, I'm just a stammering fool. Your mother and dad and vomit. And she stops me. She puts her hand on my hand and she said, cut it out. All my friends rave about you. And I'm like, oh, thank you. She's like, I know you're a good medium. And we both know what you're looking at. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of hard. Because she was sick, man. She was sick. She wasn't going through it. She was sick. And she said, well, they gave me 3 months to live 6 months ago. And I went, oh, so we're really on borrowed time. I'm a medium. Please, Lord, not today. And she said, I'm not here for you to tell me my future. I'm at peace with my parents. I don't have any kids. My significant other passed away years ago, and we never had kids. And I'm like, ooh. And what she asked me next changed my life. Changed how I do this. She said, I want to know who I'm going to help when I cross over. I said, sorry, what? Yeah, I want to know what I should be doing to connect with my nieces and to connect with my brother and my sister. And she's very much in the moment of discovering and doing her soul nest work. And soul nesting is when you're preparing your body and the relationships so that when you cross over, you can either still have them or be at peace with them or whatever the case may be. The people that really soul nest right are the ones that go, I'm going to take a nap, I'll be back in 20, and they pass in their sleep because there's no conflict for them. Well, still in my stammering guttons, I got to a point where she's like, this is just a wonderful time. I've really enjoyed this. And we talked about things like, talk about how you want to come back. Do you want to show a ladybug or a rainbow? Do you want to be so forth and so on? And she said, wow, that's a great idea. I'm going to start talking to my niece about that. Butterflies. I'm going to show her butterflies. Okay. And when she was done, I gave her a quartz, a lightning quartz. It was a Lumerian. Actually, it wasn't a lightning. It was a Lumerian quartz. And it had these ridges on the side of it, which are the memory keepers in crystals. And she lived another 4.5 years. And I stayed in contact with her. And I would talk to her every couple of months. And she was in this town called Johnstown. And I would... I'd pop in, I'd say hi. I mean, I always had a mask in my car because of her, right? She was in full remission. And she'd never seen my live show. She'd only, come one-on-one. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, I'm at the local hotel. I got 2 tickets for you. Have your sister bring you. Love to see you guys. Sit right up front. Can I tell you your story? And she said, yeah, absolutely. She goes, oh my God, I'd love to see you. Let me see how I am. Well, the first time she was too sick. And then about another 5-6 months later, I was back out there again. I go, hey, how about now? She goes, I'm going to come, no matter what. She's like, I need you to stop by my place, though, beforehand. And when I showed up, she's like, she had a parrot. She had a fucking parrot, right? And this parrot would like, I'm like, oh, there you go. I'm going to be seeing parrots for the rest of my days once you pass. And then she says, hey, I got something for you. I'm like, okay. And she walked out of her bedroom and she handed me the crystal. She said, for 4+ years, I've had this crystal by the head of my bed. And she goes, it's done everything to get me this far. You need to pass this along. I'm sorry, what? She goes, this crystal is something else. And I dubbed it the Linda. And I did pass it along to Reiki student who needed it, who's now in remission herself. So pass that along, everybody. This is real work. This isn't bullshit. This is real work. And I'm going to wrap up tonight with Linda's sense of humor. So Linda goes, "You want to see something? You want to see it?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "A little late for nudes, honey. Like, not into it. Sorry. Stage 4, I'm out." But please find that funny. She goes, "Come here to the kitchen." So I go into the kitchen, and she opens up a refrigerator, and it's just lined with all of these injectables and medications and whatever. And I'm like, did this fall off a truck? Like, is this, like, I'm looking around, I'm thinking I'm in a scene as The Sopranos. Like, they'll never suspect me. You know, if I die, you get here and empty this out and get it to the freezer. Did you get the stuff? I loved Linda. I loved her. And I said, "Linda, what the hell is all of this?" And she goes, "I go into hospice on Monday." And I'm like, I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "I've been stockpiling all my meds, telling them I'm losing them or I'm forgetting them, and they just kept sending them to me." Little Medicaid fraud here, by the way, everybody. Not me. Linda, go get her. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she goes, "Guess what I'm going to do?" And I'm like, I'm just waiting for it. I'm like, "I don't want to be an accessory. I work with the police. Don't tell me anything I don't want to know." And she said, "I'm going to set the record for being on hospice the longest because I know I can do it." That was Linda to a T. She had a zest for life, and she understood her own mortality better than anybody else I'd ever seen. And by the way, she was a very normal, run-of-the-mill person. She didn't necessarily do anything extraordinary, but everybody loved her. Everybody that met her knew she was a kind and gentle soul. And I miss her every day, and she gave me a great lesson. She also gave me a great tool. I also understood that crystals were very real then, that it carried a memory and it carried a vibration that is meant to heal and help. So, yeah, I'm just going to take a quick look here. Yeah, hallucinogens. I don't want to get into a debate here. But I will say this, though. I'm thank you for asking me that, Lynn, because that's one of my favorite stories. It is in the book, but it's one of my favorite stories. Book's going to be out later on this summer because I am putting my foot up for a couple of weeks to heal my toe. I'm going to take care of that. Yeah, nothing's wrong with parrots, Elizabeth. I don't want to get parrot hate mail. I don't want to hear from the cast of Rio. Okay? I don't. You know, I'm joking. I hope you guys get my sense of humor, but yeah, and the plant medicine and shamans and healers, there's a lot to be said for that. And actually, the true origins, I've been doing a lot of work with the Dead Sea Scrolls and really kind of understanding the intention of the writings. And thank you, Lynn. And it's when you really do a deep dive into the Dead Sea Scrolls, it actually talks more about the ritualistic nature of hallucinogens than it does about human sacrifice. And it kind of got quite literal. Christianity has been embraced by and manipulated by carnal knowledge. Let me just say it that way. I don't want to say Satanism, it's carnal knowledge. I mean, when you think about the ritualistic parts that were read in the Dead Sea Scrolls, they actually talk about taking a hallucinogen to communicate and be open to receiving messages from God. I'm doing it the old-fashioned way, the natural way, without any of those. I actually don't do any. I'm very limited on even medications that I take. Even when I go into surgery, I do the lowest dose, all that stuff. But the dynamic with that was that it kind of needed to have a little bit of twist. And when I say this, anybody that struggled with Christianity, when I point this out, you're going to go like, what the fuck? the symbolism of us taking the bread and calling it the body and drinking the wine and calling it the blood is human sacrifice, guys. And if the original text talks about us having a hallucinogen, connection and being able to be open and communicating the synapses to believe in God. And by the way, you don't overdo it either. Respect it. They take a very low dose. This was not like I'm going to take 25 hits, dude. No, that's abuse. When you get this, you get a 1/4 ounce of the root and the mushroom. That's it. I've done a shit ton of reading on this. And it's very, very limited. It's very controlled, it's very specific, but it's opening yourself up, especially when you first start doing it. Well, the dynamic then, when you start to look at why would Christianity all of a sudden call it a sacrifice, right? What is the ritual of the sacraments? Sacrament is the root word of sacrifice. So sacrament is the sacrifice of atonement, of whatever. So you're sacrificing your confession. You're sacrificing holy orders. You're giving away pieces of your free will to indoctrinate yourself. Marriage, holy orders, last rites, all of the sacraments that are connected with that. Well, Eucharist is the sacrament applying the ritual symbolism of eating the body and drinking the blood. If you talked about that in a vacuum, without upbringing, without Sunday morning chats, without talks about sheep and chocolate eggs, you would say, what in the hell is that? But yet we've indoctrinated it to ourselves, that we've done it so many times that we go, it's just a wafer, dude. It's the symbolism of it. It's God's sacrifice to you. Quit sacrificing. Start living. Ugh. I think it just figured out the problem. We're indoctrinated to think that we have to give up something all the time. The thing that we have been most giving up has been common sense. Let's take it back, everybody. Linda, I love you. Thank you for being present with me. We're going to close this down. I'm going to give everybody a heart tap. Tell one another we care and love for one another. If you're interested in a reading, by all means, jump in there. Click on the LinkedIn page. Also, if you want to see some of the places that I'm going to be releasing a nationwide and then a European tour. Guys, it's coming. I'm working on it. I'm a one-man show with this stuff. And I work very hard on it. Just know I've got a lot of cool stuff coming. Thank you all. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for all the likes. Thanks for all the whatever. I saw somebody throw money into it. I don't even know what to do with it or how to collect it. Thank you guys so much. I will get more organized, better at this. I just love to do what I do. So I want to thank you guys. And remember, keep going. See you guys soon.